was raised on the planet of Aridness 2, much like the Master Chief. But, unlike the Master Chief, he was living in a different colony on Aridness. William grew up in a small city called Pearson. In his words, as he described it, it was quaint and peaceful, lush and green, unlike the other colonies on the planet. William still has memories, flashes, from before he was taken as a child. This lovely little river walk which flowed through the city center. You could walk all up and down the built path on either side of you. You could see different architecture and sculptures scattered up and down. The designated walking path, that is. William's memories still live in that little section of the city. He vividly remembers there was mass snowfall hitting the treetops and blanketing the whole city, like something out of a movie. The snow made the surrounding area look like a white, fluffy blanket. That was the last memory he had of his hometown when he went to sleep that night. He would wake up, much like I did, confused and in an unknown facility, being escorted to the meeting hall. Instead of zoning out or being scared like most of us, he listened to everything Halsey and Deja were saying. He also instinctively absorbed all the information that they were giving to us. He thought this was some game that his parents put him up to. He wanted to do his best to win the game, of course. He would give his all, no matter what, and use his wits to beat whatever they put him up against. He would even work with other kids and try to get the objectives done. He tried his hardest to lead them, doing his best to be a natural-born leader. However, most of the other children, along with William, would all end up taking a liking to John's leadership skills instead and try to follow his example. William would envy John and everything he did, wanting to be just like him, but never quite the same. No one knew what made John so special. William finally realized this whole thing wasn't some game. The day we had to survive out on our own in the wild and return back to base. Of course, William had a plan to get everyone out, but never got to properly execute his plan due to John always being one step ahead of him. He started to see what was really going on, and reality finally started to set in for William. But William, like most of us, accepted that place was his new home, and he would never see his old one again. Eventually, William didn't care, and he became numb to the memories of his true home. Like the other kids, there was really nowhere left to go. They had all been there for so long. Why stop now? Plus, he still just had one goal, one thought in his mind. Win the game. That simple motivation, though flawed, would make him a great Spartan, and also define the rest of his career. William went through the rest of basic training like all the surviving kids did. Augmentation went very smoothly for him. He just had some general pain and soreness from the procedure. However, Oni would pull William aside after his augmentation to use him as the Spartan they knew John would never be so long as he was under Halsey. Oni would see that William would never go off script, never question orders, never even need an AI. William would become all machine and never think about the human side of him. Oni mainly used William to kill insurrectionist leaders, but would often have him test new weapons. All kinds of weapons, whether they were physical, biological, psychological, you name it. You see, William is a jack of all trades type of Spartan, never really had a favorite gun. Whether it's a weapon, vehicle, objective, human, or alien, he's going to figure out how to use it, achieve it, or kill it with excellent proficiency. I say he doesn't have a favorite gun, but he does favor the sniper rifle, and we enjoy giving him the maximum amount of shit about it. William would be sent on countless missions, from recon to demolition. He's been through it all, and survived through it all. However, there was one mission where he got in a little over his head and would have to be saved by yours truly. This is the mission where our paths crossed for the first time since we were kids. We would actually become quite the legendary team within Oni's classified files. It's a cold, gray, and stormy day with the Covenant threat closing in on reach. William, Sierra 115, is tasked with the retrieval of Oni personnel that have been trapped within the city of Qzon by Covenant forces. The mission was simple. Make his way through the city to an Oni public safety building and wipe out any Covenant forces that are stationed in his way. This building was located in a secure section of the city where only authorized personnel were permitted. He would be dropped off 6.5 miles away from his objective in a downtown part of the city due to heavy Covenant activities. The Pelican would drop him off right between two buildings to keep cover, and he would quickly make his way through buildings and streets of the city. He made quick work of any Covenant patrolling through the streets and made 6.5 miles look like a 10-minute walk. As he approached the Oni building, he noticed that the automated turrets were down and none of the security measures had kicked in. Nothing was locked down, as if the city had just up and left. The Oni building was black in color with blacked out windows and no visible markings to show that it was Oni. As he looked at the front of the building, there were 3 patrols of Covenant guarding the front entrance. The front doors were ripped off their hinges, and one of the patrols was sent in to investigate. The Covenant knew there was something in there. One patrol stayed guarding the front entrance, while the last one went around the side of the building towards the back. William decided to post up on the first floor of an adjacent building at the front entrance to pick off the first squad before moving in. The front of the first floor was all glass in this building, making it perfect for William's line of sight towards his targets. He set up his sniper rifle on the front desk. William waited for a moment for just the right opportunity to fire. Just looking down the scope. He had 4 targets, 2 elites, and 2 grunts. He had 4 bullets in the magazine. But William isn't one to waste ammunition. The very millisecond that one elite walked in front of the other, William fired in quick succession. 1, 2, 3. And then silence. 4 dead bodies. 1 bullet left in the chamber. William reloads, puts the sniper on his back, pulling out his battle rifle. He quickly moved to the front entrance before the other patrol could come from the back of the building and see him enter. Once inside, he quickly followed the noise of the Covenant patrol that were in the building. He made his way to the stairwell and quickly climbed his way to the second floor. And then as he looked down the second floor hallway, he saw 2 jackals searching through the office cubicles. These cubicles' walls went floor to ceiling. You couldn't see over the cubicle. The jackals, like pirates, picked through all of the items, shelves, and drawers in each of the cubicles. One jackal came out of the cubicle closest to the stairs, and William was standing right next to the entryway of the cubicle, just waiting for the jackal. Like a fucking horror villain. William used the butt of his battle rifle to completely cave in the jackal's skull in one hit. As this jackal slammed into the ground, the other jackal, 2 cubicles over, was alerted and quickly rushed out to the hallway, carbine drawn. All it saw was its ally laid across the ground, slightly twitching and bleeding out. That second jackal slowly approached its ally's body, and as it reached the entryway of the cubicle, it peeked in and saw nothing. It stood up from being slightly crouched and was a bit confused. Just as it became relaxed at the sight of an empty cubicle, it felt something grab it by its neck and was suddenly staring at the ceiling. William had hidden in the cubicle across from the body and snuck up behind the jackal, picking it up with one hand around its neck and the other one around one of its legs. William then threw the jackal straight down into his knee, snapping the jackal's spine and leaving the body nearly broken in half. William threw the second body on top of the first and proceeded to enter each cubicle. Once he had confirmed there were no assets around, he continued up to the 3rd floor via the stairwell. William reached the 3rd floor to see that the stairwell door was broken and destroyed from plasma damage. He was getting closer to his objective, and as he entered the floor, he heard a woman scream. William quickly made his way towards the sound and found himself in an open office room with more traditional half cubicles and a meeting room towards the back. Shattered glass all over the floor, along with paper everywhere. Some of the cubicles are smashed, and he peeked into the room more and saw an elite approaching several Oni personnel who had been hiding in the meeting room behind the large table. The woman screamed once more, and William noticed 2 grunts rummaging around in the cubicles that were right next to each other. It was now or never. William pulled out his sniper rifle, firing at the elite without even using the scope. The elite fell over, and blood splattered all along the walls and ceiling. William quickly flipped his sniper around, now holding the barrel, and used it as a baseball bat to smash into one of the grunt's skulls. For his next trick, he flipped the sniper up in the air, and as the second grunt was distracted by the sniper, William spun around behind the second grunt and pulled that grunt backwards to the floor. He then caught the sniper, perfectly landing in his hands, and pulled the trigger point blank into the grunt's torso, leaving a huge hole in its body and the floor. After the room was cleared, William approached the Oni personnel, confirming they were his targets, and told them it was time to leave. The woman who had screamed before mentioned they had hid some civilians in another room. William quickly retrieved the civilians and was ready to evacuate all the personnel that he found. Only about 8 people total alive throughout the entire building. Hell, maybe the entire city. As he was telling the highest ranking personnel what the plan was for extraction, he heard multiple phantoms outside dropping off reinforcements. They had been made. William requested everyone to get to the safe room on the 4th floor and that he would hold them off. He escorted everyone to the safe room and sat with his back against the outside of the safe room door, staring down a hallway, ready for whatever may come for him. I had been deployed under Reach to take out the Covenant's operations behind enemy lines, and that's what I was doing. Wreaking havoc on anything that got in my way, and leaving only corpses in my wake. I had just finished up terrorizing a small Covenant operation base when I got a transmission from Oni saying I had a new mission. They told me they lost signal with another Spartan, and I was the closest asset to finish what they had started. Those personnel were extremely important to Oni, and the information they had in their heads alone was too valuable to get into Covenant hands. I was about 100 miles from the city of Kuzan and was escorted via Pelican to the Spartans' last known location. I was dropped off relatively close to the Oni building, to my surprise, and made it down a few blocks before I saw the entrance to the building. The building was heavily damaged, with an unbelievable amount of plasma burns that seemed to have blown the walls out from the inside. What happened here?